There is a specific type of silence that tends to hit us when we least expect it. It usually arrives late at night, or in that split second after a phone call ends, or right when you step into an empty apartment. It isn't just a lack of noise. It feels heavy. It feels like a physical weight pressing down on your chest. We live in an era that is arguably the most hyper-connected in human history. You carry a device in your pocket that links you to billions of people, infinite streams of content, and constant dopamine hits. Yet, statistical data and psychological studies are screaming a different truth. We are lonelier than we have ever been. We are drowning in communication, yet we are starving for connection. You might be feeling this right now, that sense of being completely unseen, even when you are surrounded by people. It's that terrifying suspicion that if you were to suddenly disappear, the world would just keep scrolling without you. But I want to offer you a radical shift in perspective. What if this crushing sense of isolation isn't a malfunction? What if it isn't a sign that you are broken, or unlovable, or failing at life? What if this silence is actually a calculated maneuver by the divine? We are going to explore the possibility that your loneliness is actually a setup. It is a necessary vacuum created by Krishna to pull you into a relationship that is so intense, so real, and so fulfilling that it makes the noise of the world look like a cheap distraction. You aren't being ghosted by the universe. You are being prepared for a meeting. To understand why we feel this ache, we have to look at the anatomy of the soul. The ancient Vedic texts describe the soul, the Atma, as a fragmented spark of the supreme consciousness, Krishna. Imagine a single spark separated from a roaring fire. That spark retains the heat and light of the fire, but as it drifts further away into the cold darkness, it begins to lose its intensity. It struggles to exist. That is us. We are sparks trying to find warmth in a world that is fundamentally cold. We try to fill this cosmic homesickness with temporary things. We chase the promotion. We chase the relationship. We chase the number of likes on a screen. And it works, but only for a second. It's like trying to quench a desperate, dehydration-level thirst with a single drop of water. That drop touches your tongue, and for a microsecond, there is relief. But then it vanishes, and the thirst comes back 10 times harder because now you remember what water feels like. The loneliness you feel is simply your soul protesting against cheap substitutes. It is your internal guidance system screaming that you are looking for love in a place that is structurally incapable of holding it. This brings us to the divine reframe. We are conditioned to view isolation as a form of rejection. But in the spiritual dictionary, isolation translates to exclusive access. Think about how you treat the people you love the most. When you have something crucial to say, something deeply personal, do you shout it across a crowded food court? No. You isolate them. You pull them into a quiet room. You shut the door. You eliminate the distractions because intimacy requires silence. Krishna is doing the exact same thing with you. The silence you are experiencing is Krishna clearing the room. He is muting the noise of society, the demands of your ego, and the distractions of your social circle, so that, for the first time, you might actually be able to hear him. We see the ultimate prototype of this in the Bhagavad Gita. Visualize the scene. We are on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It is chaos. There are millions of soldiers, elephants, chariots, and the deafening roar of impending war. But in the center of this hurricane, time seems to freeze. Arjuna, the greatest warrior of his time, crumbles. He drops his bow. He is weeping, trembling, overwhelmed by a sense of futility and absolute aloneness. He is surrounded by family, yet he has never been more isolated in his internal crisis. It is precisely in this pocket of isolation when Arjuna's material world has collapsed, that Krishna speaks. He didn't give the Gita to Arjuna when he was comfortable in a palace. He gave it to him when he was broken on a battlefield. Your loneliness is your battlefield. It is the moment where your material defenses fail so that your spiritual offense can begin. So, how do we operationalize this? How do we turn a depressing Saturday night alone into a powerful spiritual session? The method is called ekanta sadhana, spiritual practice in solitude. It requires you to stop running from your mind and start training it. The Bhagavad Gita describes the untrained mind as a wild wind, turbulent, obstinate, and dangerous. When we are alone, this wild mind turns on us. It replays old cringe moments. It fabricates future catastrophes. It critiques our worth. Most people avoid solitude because they are terrified of being locked in a room with that voice. The counter move is not to silence the mind by force, but to engage it with a higher vibration. This is where the ancient technology of the mantra comes in, specifically the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This isn't just poetry. It is a sonic tool designed to hack the consciousness. When you sit in your isolated space, your bedroom, your car, a park bench, and you begin to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, you are changing the frequency of the room. Try to visualize the mechanics of this. You take a set of japa beads, 108 beads, that provide a tactile anchor for your hands. You focus your eyes on the bead, your tongue on the pronunciation, and your ears on the sound. You are engaging the senses that usually drag you into the world, and you are tying them to the divine. At first, your mind will scream. It will remind you of your laundry, your emails, your regrets. That is normal. That is the resistance. Your job is to gently, repeatedly pull the mind back to the sound. Every time you pull your mind back from a distraction to the mantra, you are doing a rep. You are building spiritual muscle. You are turning the void of loneliness into a laboratory of consciousness. Now, there is a trap here we need to avoid, the hermit trap. You might think, okay, if the world is a distraction, I should just stay in my room forever. No, that is not the path. We need a dynamic balance between solitude and sangha. Think of a high-performance athlete. They spend hours alone in the gym, sweating, training, focused on their own mechanics. That is your solitude. But then they get on the field with their team, they strategize, they support each other, they play the game together. That is community. If you only have community, you become shallow, you have no depth of personal realization. But if you only have solitude, you become weird, rigid, or discouraged. You need sadhu sangha association with those who are also seeking the truth. When you meet with others who are on this path, you realize something crucial. You aren't the only one fighting these battles. You hear their stories, you see their struggles, and you gain strength. You take the energy you cultivated in your private chanting and you share it. And in return, you take the inspiration from the group back into your private chanting. It is a symbiotic loop that accelerates your growth. And here is the end game. Where does this all lead? If you commit to this process, if you use your isolation to bond with Krishna and use your community to stay grounded, a profound psychological shift occurs. You stop seeing the world as a collection of dead objects and strangers. You start to develop universal vision. Krishna promises in the Gita that for one who sees him everywhere, he is never lost. This means the walls of your isolation dissolve. You start to perceive the artistry of the divine in everything, the light filtering through the trees, the complexity of a single leaf, the life force animating the person standing next to you, in line. You realize that the universe is not empty, It is crowded with the presence of God. The feeling of loneliness becomes biologically impossible because you are constantly in the presence of your dearest friend. You realize that the silence wasn't empty, it was just waiting for you to tune in to the right frequency. So, if you are sitting there right now feeling the weight of the world, feeling like you are walking this path alone, stop, breathe. Look at the empty space around you and relabel it. This is not abandonment. This is an appointment. Krishna is waiting in the quiet. The world has walked out so that he can walk in. Trust the silence. Pick up your beads. Start the conversation.